Jazz pianist Khalid Moss has played alongside some of the finest jazz musicians in history. Not only is he a fabulous musician, he's also a renowned teacher.
I began playing the piano when I was about 5 or 6. But before that, my mother, when she was carrying me, she always concentrated on music and wanted her offspring to be musically talented. So when I came out of the womb, I was already marked. And I didn't really discover my true gift till much later. When I went to high school, I wanted to play football. And my mother said I couldn't play football, so I had to join the band. And that's the single most angry at her I'd ever been in my life. So I joined the band, and it was a good thing because I played clarinet. And it taught me how to read. When I went to college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Majored in psychology, sociology, things like that. At Ohio University at that period of time, they had a piano in every dorm. And just for fun, I used to go down and play, and people would gather around and listen. And it got to the point where my first gig, $10. And I was so happy I called my mother. I mean, it was $10. And a light went off and said, well, maybe I can make some money doing this. And just progressed from there. I joined the Ohio University Jazz Band, and I was chosen over several other pianists, and I really kind of got serious about it then. And one year I said, well, I'm just going to take a year off from college and dedicate myself learning what I want to learn on piano. And that's when jazz really came in. John Coltrane, Miles Davis, people like that really caught my ear, and that was something I wanted to replicate. I began practicing that. I had been playing around with a couple of bands in Dayton, and Brownie McGee and Sonny Terry were great blues players. They were at Jilly's, and I didn't know Gelati, but I said, let me come up and play in between the sets, and I'll do it for free. Of course, he went for that. And so I did that first gig there, and then eventually he let me bring a trio in there, trio which is bass, drums, and piano. And that was pretty successful. I went to New York first by myself and had a nice little job working at the parks and was playing around a little bit. But something happened and I came back to Dayton. And a few years later, my girlfriend and we decided we wanted to make the move to New York. I started practicing with Pharoah Sanders. He's another pretty renowned musician. And eventually I got the gig with him. And from there on, the rest is kind of history. I worked with Yusef Lateef and Betty Carter and people like that. I've traveled, I've been to Europe over a dozen times. Been to Africa, all the provinces in Canada, and most of the states in the United States.
Khalid has played at Carnegie Hall and at the Kennedy Center as part of the White House tribute to jazz legend Lionel Hampton.
I was working with Betty Carter, and the artists were there were amazing. Dave Brubeck was there, Charlie Pride was there, Pearl Bailey was there, and just to hang out with all these people was just great. When I was working steadily with the other bands, I was on an airplane one time and I read this article about these two pianists, and they had developed a condition in their hand that made their fingers curl back. And later I found out it was called focal dystonia. But I said, wow, I hope that never happens to me. And it started happening to me. My fingers started curling back and I could only use these two fingers. They still haven't really figured out what it is because there's no real treatment. You have to kind of mentally conquer it, which is what I did. But I came back to Dayton because I couldn't make a living as a musician anymore. In New York, if you're making money, it's fabulous. But if you're not making any money, it can be horrible. So I came back to my roots, where my mom and people were. It was devastating. I didn't really know what was happening because I was always a piano player who never missed a note, never had a flub or anything. And I started missing notes and I was just wondering what was happening. For 6 months I didn't touch a piano. I didn't even want to look at a piano. And then when I got back to Dayton, didn't even know if I could play. I didn't lose my passion, I lost my technique. It was very humbling. Something happens to just about everybody that's devastating, and I had to learn to deal with it. And I think I dealt with it pretty well. So I gradually figured out certain things that I could do and applied them to my technique. And within a year, I was back all the way back. My spiritual resurrection, when I realized I could play again, is something it's kind of profound. I don't know why it happened or what happened, but it happened, and I'm over it. I've overcome it. I relearned everything. I got a gig at La Berge. For the next 5 years, I was playing there 5 nights a week. I joined the band Standard Time, which featured Michael Wade on trumpet. And we had a ball. You know, we traveled and recorded and did a lot of things. After that, I was fortunate enough to be the singer, Kathy Wade. She's from Cincinnati. I was her music director for 10 years. And we traveled Montreal, we traveled to Louisiana, and traveled all over.
He has taught piano, was the jazz columnist for the Dayton Daily News, and is playing more.
It's my moment of zen. It really is. That allows me not to think about any problems, I don't have any worries, I'm not thinking about anything. And sometimes I get so involved in it, I actually sometimes forget I'm a piano player until I sit back down and then I hear this music coming out and I don't even know where it's coming from. I hear the music coming out and it gives me peace, and I want to just take it further and further. You can never reach a peak, but you can always try for it.